wasting 12 inches or so. All that effort getting your paddle up, and you don't go all the way up here, but you don't put in to a foot back, it's kind of a waste. So it's really important to think about, wherever you're going to put in, don't put your paddle up any further. Some people exaggerate the lifting of the paddle on recovery to help with that process. So if I exaggerate the height of my paddle, which is good to do, not during a race so much, but just for practice, go really high and then dive in exactly where you want your paddle to go. I personally like the ankle for average place to put your paddle. So what you want to do is go up to your ankle and get in. Now some people off to the side, depending on your preference, you can go straight down or off to the side. I think off to the side a little bit, coming in from the side is preferable. Again, if you raise your paddle up really high, exaggerate the height, you know, it's easier to get it in instead of fanning. So if you are fanning, it usually means your paddle's too low. It's just too easy to fan. Like I'm fanning right now, but if I get it up, I can get it straight down. So where your paddle goes in is really important, and don't waste energy by putting your paddle too far up before it goes in. Then corresponding to that is where you take your paddle out. Now, one way to snap your paddle out is to drop your top hand. What I like to do is push my pinky out. So the pinky on my top hand, if I push that out, twist it, it pops your paddle out. Think about pushing your pinky forward, and it will pop your paddle out. Let me head over this way a little bit. Keep heading down. So back to getting the paddle out. For visual reference, I usually like to go when my bottom hand is about at my knee to mid-thigh. That's when the paddle in general should pop out. And one thing I should say is that you don't want to be real mechanical. Everything that I say, you should develop your own style. And so style is very important. And what style means is that your body is different biomechanically than everybody else's. So you may not paddle exactly like me or somebody else, maybe close to. If you find somebody that's biomechanically similar, somebody that's a really good paddler, you might want to copy their technique. But if you're not biomechanically, or your dimensions don't match someone that you want to paddle like, then it's probably not a good idea to paddle like that person. So you want to develop your style. Is good. Style is, it makes you look smooth, it makes you look cool, it makes you look like you're professional and you're confident and you know exactly what's going on. So that's what style is. And some paddlers, as we look at different paddlers, you know, good ones, you know, they all paddle slightly different. Andy Treebold, which is one of the good paddlers, you'll see him actually exaggerate the height on his paddle, sort of like this. And what that does is it makes sure that he gets that drive at the beginning of the stroke, and he doesn't, it just helps his efficiency. It seems inefficient raising your paddle that high, but I think what it does is it calibrates his stroke. So once he calibrates his stroke, then he can go back to a more natural recovery, where he's not lifting his paddle so high. So I think it's good to recalibrate your stroke every so often. Again, the entry and exit's important. And the mistakes people make is, number one, they reach too far, so it's an unnatural reach that usually ends up bobbing the boat up and down. If you reach too far, your weight goes down, and you have to bring it back, so it tends to bob the boat very inefficiently. Probably one of the worst mistakes I see is people end up, they bring your paddle back too far. Their hand almost touches their knee, and there's actually, if you look from the side, you can actually see an air gap between their bend of their elbow and their back. That's how far their elbows go back. And if you look at it, what they're doing is they're lifting water. And a lot of times people will throw a lot of water, not just a little splash, which is actually okay, it's hard to avoid, but actually almost like a shovelful, and you're lifting water up to actually push the boat down and bobs the boat even worse. The boat that's bobbing up and down is wasting a lot of energy. So the smoother you can make the boat, the better. But again, the boat is never going to be exactly smooth because, again, the body, the way it is going to create some up and down. So your purpose is to try to minimize that depending on what you're trying to do. In a sprint, it doesn't matter. In a sprint, you're just trying to get the most speed possible. So if you're fast, by bobbing a boat, then bob the boat. Okay? But mostly in these 2-hour plus races, you need to talk about efficiency because it's the team that has the most energy in the last half hour of the race, many times will win. So you want to make sure you have that energy at the end of your last part of your race. So now that we've covered putting in and taking out, let's talk about power phase. Again, depends on what your purpose. Let's look at the majority of a race. You're going to be at a fairly hard cruise, maybe a heart rate around 150 to 160. Okay, and that's another thing about these latest electronic devices. Having your heart rate is a really good training tool. Most of the time, after a few weeks of wearing a heart rate monitor, you'll know what your heart rate is by feel. You really don't need it. I like to race with it because I like to see exactly what's going on. But I really don't need one anymore because I know, like right now, I know my heart rate's probably 115 because I'm talking and paddling and not going really hard. And I bet maybe that's what I'll do on a video. I'll kind of have the video show the heart rate, and I'll guess what my heart rate is for various intensities. And I'm guessing I can try be in about 5 weeks. Now here, coming up, you'll see some riffles, fast water. There's definitely a V on the right, kind of heading towards it, another one against the bank, one off to the left. What to take? Well, this is a tough call without checking out the water beforehand. But if you have a choice between against the shore and in the middle, and the water seems to be about the same, you're probably better off, you know, taking the center channel. Even though it may look like the leaves and stuff are going faster, I know sometimes that's kind of like an illusion. Now again, for heading up into a shallow stretch, the wave develops under the boat. You want to have a good boat speed coming into the shallow section line. And then you'll feel a lot of pressure on your paddle because your boat's trying to get back up to speed because the current increases. So if you start out at the beginning of a riffle like that, a V, about 100 foot before, everybody in the boat picks it up maybe from where you're paddling another 10-15% intensity, and the stroke rate, just like downshifting in a car, you should go a little faster stroke rate. That'll give you a little more power to be able to accelerate the boat efficiently And then once you're into the riffles, slow it down a little bit and pull with your back, bury your paddle a little bit for maybe 15 strokes, and then you get back into your normal rhythm, whatever we'll talk about normal rhythm is. So here I've got a stretch in between riffles. I think the most optimum thing to get into here, again, I've got probably 6 foot water. I don't feel the bottom so much. So now I'm going to probably want to get into my 72 strokes a minute, which you divide that by, 6. That would be 1 and 2. So that'd be 12 strokes every 10 seconds. So if you have a watch, you can see it going from, 5 seconds to 15 seconds, and make sure you're counting 11 or 12 strokes, and you're at 72. So just a little bit beyond 1 stroke a second. I think for most average sized individuals is pretty close to optimal. So what I would do here, if you want to get into that 72, start going through your head what you're doing. Okay, look at if you want to recalibrate your stroke, lift it up high, drive it in right at your ankle. Make sure when your bottom hand gets to your knee, you're thinking about pulling out. If you're having trouble snapping it out, push your pinky forward, and that's going to naturally snap the paddle out. Again, it's okay. I'll call that the calibration step, right? Up high, dig it in, calibrate out. Okay. Now, what's real important is, of course, breathing. You always want to make sure you're getting rid of all the stale air in your lungs, okay? And then take a fairly good breath. Now, you're not going to do this every breath, but every 2 or 3 minutes, you should think about, okay, breathe out, breathe in, take a deep breath, blow out, and then go back to normal, whatever your normal breathing is. So breathing is real important. A lot of people take shallow breaths and they're not getting enough oxygen to their muscles. One way to tell is if your muscles are aching, then that means you're not, one of the things that could be saying is you're not getting enough oxygen to your muscles. So usually 4 or 5 minutes of breathing fixes that problem. Okay, breathing, concentrating on blowing out, breathing in, and that achy feel that you get and you think about almost not being in shape, it's not that. Okay, normally if you're have done any type of training, it's not that you're not in shape, it's that you're not giving your muscles what they need. So again, remember that I said earlier, to get a good efficient stroke, you should go through a list. So we talked about putting in, getting out. Okay, breathing is important. Okay, in and out. The next thing is relaxing. You want to make sure, especially when you're recovering your stroke, everything is relaxed. You should not keep a death grip on your paddle the whole time. That's going to lead to cramping after a while. So if you feel like you're getting like cramps, your muscles tightening, it could be that you're not letting your muscles relax and then contract at every stroke. So that's relaxing, contracting, relaxing, contracting. Again, it's always good to recalibrate and overdo the relaxing. Wiggle your fingers, right? Throw it, whatever you have to do to recalibrate, then you can go back to a more natural look to your stroke. So relaxation is very important, and what it does too is it helps pump blood through your muscles. So if you're relaxing, tensing, relaxing, tensing, that's like another heart. The whole body is now part of your circulatory system, and you're helping your heart pump muscles, pump blood and oxygen to your muscles. So here's another, this is kind of a weird one, not any apparent V, kind of a big V. Again, when all fails, take the center. We have a island here, so we want to stay away from that eddy that's forming right below the island. So we kind of want to stay to maybe to the center, to the right of center here. So we're talking about strokes. Now we have on our list 4 things. Where you put your paddle in, where you take it out, breathing, and staying relaxed. Next thing I would say right up there is your power phase. It's important to have your power when your paddle is maybe a little bit forward to slightly, to maybe vertical. So what that means is, for most people, your power should be right at the beginning of your stroke. And the way it should feel is that you're actually driving downwards. So if you're driving downwards, you're going to also be pulling backwards. But it's that action that gives your core, your big muscles, puts them into play. Because if you're arm paddling, you can do everything that I mentioned by what we call arm paddling. You're primarily using the muscles in your arms, your biceps, to paddle. And that works good for about 15 minutes, but your arm muscles are going to wear out. What's stronger and able to recover quicker is your core muscles, your abdominals, your lats, things like that. In order to get those into play, your arms should be fairly straight in your power phase, maybe elbows slightly bent, but they really shouldn't move. Your elbows should not change angle during your power phase. Why? Because you want your power to come from your core. And every time you bend your elbow during a power phase, it brings in your bicep. Okay? So in a short corrective stroke, especially steering, you can, obviously you're going to do that, but your main stroke, you want your power to come from your midsection and your back. So to do that, again, you want to make sure you're putting your paddle in where you should, but drive down at the beginning of your stroke, and it should feel like you're actually lifting your butt off the seat. You're obviously not going to, but that should be the sensation. There should be less pressure on your butt since you're like driving down with your top hand. Now the bottom hand drives down too, but biomechanically, if you look at the geometry, by driving down versus pulling